Hello beautiful people, let's get started with today's look. Off camera, I prime my eyes with the Urban Decay Primer Potion in Original. For the face, some Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Primer. Using the Juvia's Place Eye Prep Eye Prime Eye Primer, and this is in the shade number 2. I'm just going to go ahead and shake the product up because it can separate. I'm just going to put 2 small dots on the eyelids. A little goes a long way. I'm going to use my finger to diffuse the product on the eyelid. I focus most of it on the lid because that's where I want like the most color payoff, and then I try to use a lighter tapping motion around the crease area just to help diffuse it. Grabbing my KVD translucent setting powder, I'm just going to go ahead and set the base. I'm doing this because I'm going to be mostly blending out an eyeshadow on top of the base. I just want to make it easier to blend out the eyeshadow. We're starting off with the Juvia's Place Mauves palette, or the Mauves palette, and I'm grabbing this color in the upper left corner. I'm going to be focusing this in the crease, so on the outer portion of the crease, that is where I'm kind of bringing it out and winging it up, but then when I get closer inner towards the tear duct, I'm going to just make sure I taper it more, make it slightly thinner, and then also bring that shade down on the outer portion of the lid. I'm grabbing my eye primer again. I'm going to use this to carve out the crease. I want a more distinct crease shape, or kind of like a half cut crease for this look. So I'm just taking it slightly above where I can like naturally feel where my eyeball is, and then just filling that shape in and making sure that I diffuse it on the outer edge. Grabbing the shade in the bottom middle, I'm going to use my finger and apply that to the lid. I'm using my finger because I feel like your finger kind of just helps grip to shimmer shades like that and to help pack it on. And then I'm just going in with the smaller brush just to help clean up the edges. Then I'm grabbing that shade in the bottom right corner and using that just for the last bit of the portion of the lid that we carved out, and just kind of diffusing it as much as possible, and then going in with a brush just to help blend out those 2 shades again. Picking the shade up in the upper left corner again, I'm using a smaller brush, and I'm using this to kind of bring more intensity of a stark line between the carved out area and our crease shade that we already had, and just blending everything out as nicely as possible. I'm grabbing my Ombre palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, grabbing the shade New Yorker, and I'm going to be using this just around the perimeter of where I had that eyeshadow. I'm using this shade because it's close to my complexion and to kind of just help diffuse out the area where the eye primer was kind of leaving a white cast. Now I'm just grabbing my makeup remover wipe, forgot what it was called for a second, and I'm just going to use that to clean up the outer portion of the lid. My Crayon Case Sharp Me pen liner, I'm going to go ahead and create my winged liner. I'm grabbing my UV pastel liners from Badass Cosmetics. I'm starting off with the shade Sunny, so I'm just gonna put this, well, I first have the water in the lid and I just swirl my brush around in there, dip it into the color, and I'm just gonna start off by making a little small line on top of the black liner. Then I'm going into the shade Crush next, connecting it to the yellow liner that we put down from before and just continuing that line. Grabbing the shade Pinky, and I'll be finishing off this graphic liner look with that color. Just grabbing my black eyeliner from before, just cleaning up any of the areas where I may have went over the black eyeliner with the UV pastel liners. I'm going to be grabbing my Power Colored Raine collection, and I'm grabbing the shade Rico. I'm going to be putting it on the back of my hand first just to make it easier to pick up the product with an angled brush, and I'm going to be putting it slightly above where we carved out the crease. So this is where I messed up, and you see me looking, right? Like you see me looking at what I just did. So I think the issue with this was just that I had a lot going on the eye, and I kind of started swiping it on instead of kind of patting the gel on, or the glitter on, and girl, I didn't like it, so I wiped it off. Like, you know when you do your wing liner and you're like, lashes will save this. Girl, lashes wasn't gonna save that. It looked rough. It looked rough. So I'm wiping it off, and I'm just going to fix that area. So I'm gonna show you guys how I did it. I'm going back in with my Urban Decay primer potion. So the reason why I use this is to help with my oily lids. So I'm just putting that back on the area where I had removed the product from. And after that, I'm just going to go back in with the Juvia's Place primer and eye primer in shade number 2. I'm putting it on the back of my hand and picking it up with my finger, because if I would have went with it directly on the lid, I would have put too much product, and this kind of helps me control how much product I'm putting it on and to help diffuse it in that area. So I'm just covering the area where I had removed eyeshadow from. I'm gonna set it again with my translucent powder from KVD. In the Mauves palette, picking up that shade in the upper left corner again and bringing it into the crease. Just making sure I'm creating that shape, that cat eye shape from before that I had. Going back in with that eye primer, carving out the crease again. And I am going to go over the shimmer area just to make sure that I'm really bringing that shade back in. Grabbing the shimmer shade from the bottom middle row and using my finger again to apply it. At this point it's very repetitive, but I'll let you guys watch as I do it. But yeah, this is how I cleaned up that mistake. Off camera, I did end up redoing the graphic colored liner. Just making sure I'm defining that crease area again, blending it out. And now we're back up to the face area. So I'm going in with my color corrector and I'm applying it to all the areas where I have hyperpigmentation. I'm going in with a damp beauty blender, so it's damp with water, and just blending it out. I just went in with my translucent powder, so I'm just setting that area because I don't want it to alter the color of my foundation when I put it on next. I'm grabbing my Juvia's Place I Am Magic foundation in Tanzania, putting small dots all over the face because a little goes a long way, and then I'm going to go in with my damp beauty blender after it's damp with water again and just blend everything out. Now I'm grabbing my Oma Beauty Sculpt and Strobe Duo Stick in number 3, and I'm going to be using that to contour the areas of my face that I want to contour. For concealer, I'm going in with Juvia's Place I Am Magic Concealer in number 9. Just a quick side note, I do let my concealer dry down before I blend it out. It will vary depending on the weather and kind of just like if it's humid or not, but I want to say generally like 7 minutes or so I let it dry down on the face, kind of just to a point where it kind of gets to like I'd say kind of like when a liquid dries down to like a powder type of consistency, even though it's not like that, but you know, when it dries down like that, you know, that's when I blended out. So I went in first and I blended out my contoured area, and then now I'm just going in and blending out my concealer. And for the smaller areas around the hairline and my nose, I just like to go in with a smaller beauty blender just to have more control of where that product is going. Another thing I like to do is I like to use the excess concealer on the beauty blender to carve out underneath the cheekbones. And here I am just going in with a smaller beauty blender and blending out the nose, and then after that I'll work on the hairline. To set the highlighted areas, I'm going in with my Crankcase chalk dust and the letter N and my KVD translucent powder. I like to mix these two, and I take a, once again, damp with water beauty blender, and I press it into all the areas where I have highlighted on my face. Then I take my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Dark Deep, and I like to use this to set all the other areas on my face. I use a kabuki brush, and I like to still use a pressing motion just so I'm not shifting the product around, but around like the neck I will buff and blend out there because I don't want any harsh lines. And then I would have done that around the hairline too, but those edges were sitting. For the nose, I just like to use a kind of like bigger eyeshadow brush just to help with keeping that area on the nose contoured. I'm picking up my Naughty Spice bronzer from colored Raine, and I use a super light hand just to accentuate my contour underneath the cheekbone, around the hairline, and also just kind of like the upper and lower portion of the nose. Just adding a little bit more warmth, a little bit more contour, you know, a little something something. I'm going in with my setting spray. I'm gonna set and then fan off for a little bit, and then I go in with my beauty blender and press everything into the skin. From Melt Cosmetics, I'm grabbing my eyeliner in the shade Porcelina, and I'm going to be applying this to the waterline. Quick heads up, this eyeliner does have shimmer in it. I thought it was matte, but it's not. It has a little bit of shimmer in it, so just giving you guys a heads up about that. Now I'm grabbing my matte book palette, grabbing that white eyeshadow from the Crankcase, and I'm just going to use this to set that area on the waterline. This definitely helps with helping the color last. With the Mauves palette, I'm grabbing the shade in the upper right corner, and I'm using a buffing or blending brush just to help with keeping this as close as possible to the lash line, because I don't want this to be too blown out. So that helps to just use like a smudging brush, that's more the right term, a smudging brush to help keep it right there. Now in the Ombre palette, I'm grabbing New Yorker, and I'm going to be using this just to blend out the lower lash line, just to help with that color being diffused more in that area, and once again grabbing it because it's close to my complexion. From Colored Raine X Power Collection, I'm grabbing Damage Control, and I'm going to be using the highlight and highlighting all of the, oh girl, I'm a little ahead of myself, I'm highlighting the inner tear duct. And then I'm grabbing my Sharp Me pen liner, and I'm going to be using this to create a fox eye shape in the inner tear duct area. Off camera, I applied my lashes in the style Just from Super Baddie Kawaii, and now I'm going in with the blush from Color Raine X Power Collection and Damage Control, and I'm applying that blush to my cheeks. And now I'm grabbing the highlighted section, or the highlighter, and applying that to all the sections on my face where I want to highlight. Just to let you guys know quickly, that was repackaged and renamed as Rose Love from Color Raine, so you can still get that, it's just packaged differently. With my Melt Cosmetics Edible Lip Liner, I'm going to be using that to line my lip line. From Sugar Pill, I'm grabbing the shade Trinket Liquid Lipstick from Sugar Pill, and I'm going to be applying that to my lips, and I'm just going to make sure that I blot it together just to help blend it into the lip liner. And from Juvia's Place, I'm going to be grabbing the gloss in the shade So Glaze and applying that on top of the lips, and of course, you know what it is, I'm just going to blot after that, just help everything to blend and, you know, do some amazing stuff. And now I'm grabbing the lip liner again just to help define the lip line after I had mixed everything on top. Setting my face again. Fanning off for a bit. And pressing everything into the skin again with my beauty blender. And here is the finished look. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Bless up, and until next time, sending out much peace, love, and enlightenment. Bye guys.